Hi, I'm currently in Satu, which is in the very northeastern corner of Romania. That's the train station there from me room window. Um, this is my room. It's just like a bomb's hit it. I've been here for 4 days now, waiting for maps to arrive. They finally arrived today, but yeah, just 4 days, just everything gets thrown anyway, everywhere. But anyway, yeah, the last trail, the last 60 days, I've been hiking on the Blue Trail in Hungary, and it's like a 700 mile, which I think is over 1,100 kilometres, and it goes like right across Hungary. So here's a map of Hungary. Um, Across the border here on Mount Eritko, and the first village is Koseg, and then it comes all the way down here to Lake Balaton. Goes through the what they call the Balaton uplands near Topolka, and then up with the Buddha Hills. It comes, sorry, it's up here. Yeah, it takes a bit of a kind of serpentine route, really. It comes down to the suburbs of Budapest. It's like roughly the halfway mark. The halfway mark is up here, where you cross the Danube on the ferry. But I mean, Budapest, you take a few days off, get the tram in, like I did. It's a cool city. Yeah, and then after the halfway mark, it is quite hilly on the western part. The first week to Kezefeli is pretty flat, but then the hills get gradually bigger and bigger. So if you start from this side, you'll be kind of in shape by the time you get over here, because here is where all the big mountain ranges are. And I say big, but the highest mountain in Hungary is only like 1,000 meters, so it's not the Alps. But yeah, you're still doing quite a bit of elevation each day. Let's have a look. You've got the Matra Mountains. I'm not sure where they are. There's the Buck Mountains. Yeah, here we are. It's Kekes here, which is at the highest mountain. And the Matra Mountains and the Buck Mountains. You got Agalteki karst area. The Zemplin Mountains, which are the last mountain range you go through. And the Blue Trail goes to, I'm not going to try and pronounce this town here, but the Blue Trail actually goes up to, I think it's here, which is Holohaza, on the border with Slovakia. But instead I traced a route down here to no, I didn't actually. I came down to here near Bator, because the Blue Trail is only one trail in Hungary. They've got something called the Blue Circle, and the Blue Circle is two other trails that form like a big circle around Hungary. So from this town, you've got the Affoldi Kektura, which comes down to near Bator, where I left, but then it continues down past Debrecen, finishes somewhere around here, and then there's another trail that comes all the way back up to Eritko. So that's like a big hike if you want to. Yeah, then what I've done is I came off at near Bator, and then just hiked to the border, and then into Satu, and I'm going to continue across into Romania. Yeah, the Blue Trail, it's actually the oldest trail in Europe, the oldest hiking trail in Europe. It was like originated in, I think, 1930, could be 1938, maybe a little earlier. I think it was a little earlier. It's very famous in Hungary, but not really well known outside of Hungary. But it's a pretty cool trail. Yeah, I think a lot of Hungarian hikers that I met along the way were like pretty surprised to meet a foreigner on it. But I think it's quite a nice trail. I enjoyed my time on it. mean, the map's quite easy to get to, or get hold of even. I had there's a kind of 2-volume guidebook published by Cartographia, which are I think a Budapest-based company, and all the writing in it is in Hungarian, but the maps, it has maps for the entire trail, and the key is in English as well. So I just ripped everything out except for the maps and used that. They cost me, I think it was like £16 per book, and I had to order them from Stanford's map shop in London. I think they had to import them in as well, which is why they're so expensive. I have read you can get them cheaper in Hungary, and I've seen other people using them, Hungarian people using them, so obviously you can get hold of them. And I think the main airport in Hungary is in Budapest, so if you're flying in through Budapest, you know, you're likely to find them in the city, I would have thought. Also, the entire trail is mapped on OpenStreetMap, and OpenStreetMap as well has is very well mapped for everywhere I've been in Hungary, but water sources, there's water taps in virtually every village. If there's no water source on the map for the village you're going to, it means there's no water there. But shops and accommodation are always on OpenStreetMap. You can always see where you can stay and where you can buy food. The trail marking as well is excellent. It's probably, I would say, probably the best I've seen since France, really. It's got the blazes on trees as you're going past, but then also if you've got to make a left or right turn, it'll give you an arrow to tell you like which way to turn. And I was literally just using waymarks, and then like I was lazy really, just used OpenStreetMap most of the time rather than the paper map. Yeah, like I say, water and accommodation everywhere. It's quite cheap as well. In most places, I think the most I paid for a night was probably about 29 euros, I think. Usually it's like a lot less than that. I've had like pretty much like apartments to myself for like less than £15 a night. So it's quite inexpensive. The only problem is that a lot of people who run the accommodation out in the sticks don't speak English. Hungarian's a very difficult language, I find. If you speak a little bit of German, especially in the western half of the country, German's like a second language. So if you know some German, you find it easier to communicate. Also, if you're using booking, if you're booking accommodation, you can use like Booking.com, and there's a site called Revengo, which is an English website of the popular Hungarian like version of Booking.com, and you can use that. The reward with Revengo, a lot of properties expect prepayment or require prepayment when you pre-book a place, which wouldn't be too bad. I've got no problem prepaying, but they don't give you an option to pay through the site. You've then got to set up a separate bank transfer and then email details of that bank transfer to the person who runs the accommodation, which is a bit of a pain when literally the prepayment would be like €2-3 because you're only staying for one night and you're going to be there in 2 hours. But you know, if you don't do it, you lose the well, your booking doesn't go through basically. But other than that, the ones that didn't require prepayment on Revengo I never had any problems with, and actually it's usually a lot cheaper than booking. I remember one place I booked a hostel off trail in Vach, which is a nice little town, and when I got there, one of the guys there was shocked I'd paid so much, and it turned out Booking had charged me twice what the actual rate was. So and when I checked afterwards, Revengo, it was the proper rate on Revengo, so if I'd used that I would have got it like paid half as much. But you live and learn. Yeah, like I say, it's Hungary's not that flat. There's lots of hills. Usually you're only going to go up probably like 500 meters on a single climb at most, and that's like on Kekes. Other than that, each climb I did was only about 200 or 300 meters. But you know, you go in longer distances, so usually I would be doing over 700 meters of ascent and descent in a day, which isn't bad really. It's a bit like being like hiking in the Lake District or somewhere like that. Also, wild camping is legal in Hungary outside of the national parks, but I had a few cheeky wild camps in the national parks, and no one's ever complained or said anything. And it's also pretty easy because, like I say, there's no huge hills or anything. A lot of it's forest, so there's usually somewhere to camp. Although mud can be a problem, especially after rain. But from my experience, Hungary's got a pretty good climate. Virtually every day I've been here, I've been over 20 degrees in temperatures, which for a British person, that's like hot. And yeah, I've had rain. When it does rain, the trail is like mud pretty much all the time. So when it does rain, it makes things very, very difficult. But it didn't rain that much for me. What else? Public transport. If you need to get off trail, or you just want to hike a bit of the Blue Trail as day hikes, there's pretty good public transport. Every village I went to had bus stops, and I'd often see buses going around. I mean, I've got no idea how good they are because I never actually got a bus, but you can tell the network's quite good and well run. I had a few trains off trail. The trains are decent. I mean, a lot of them, especially on smaller lines, are like really old and slow. But I think only one train I got was late. All the others were all right, and like a couple of quid for a 40-minute journey. It's like nothing really. What's that, man? What was that? The next thing I was going to say about buses. Yeah. The people who run the Blue Trail have split it into sections, which are like 2 or 3 days each. In each section starts and ends with in a town with a train station. So like I say, if you want to just hike sections of it, you can easily get a train across from like Budapest or anywhere else, I would have thought. Personally, I think my two favourite sections were the Balaton uplands, where you're going over these like extinct volcanoes, and with this like amazing view of Lake Balaton, which I think is the largest lake in Central Europe. That was really cool. I really loved that couple of days. And also the Matra Mountains, which has like the highest peak. That was an amazing section as well. It had like proper kind of mountain paths and just felt really really wild. Yeah, there are 2 possible negatives. First is Roma villages, like Roma gypsies. In the eastern half of the country, you go through quite a few of them. They're very poor. People live in like really bad poverty, and it can feel a little intimidating walking through. On the Blue Trail, it wasn't so bad for me, but on the Alfoldi Kektura on the last couple of days, I walked through a couple, and it was like dozens and dozens of people just hanging around in the street, and you just got to like walk down a long street full of just people, and they're all, because you're unusual, they're all just like stare at you, and like looking you up and down and stuff, and it's very like it's a little like disconcerting and intimidating. No one ever the people who did speak to me were always friendly, and I was never threatened or felt like personally intimidating. But it does, you just feel everyone's eyes on you, and it can be a little spooky. Um, but again, from everything I'd read beforehand, I knew I was going to have to walk through villages like that. And online, I've read nothing online to say any hiker, any traveller has ever had like a bad experience. Anyone's ever had like hassled them. So I don't think it's something to necessarily be worried about, but just kind of to be aware of. And the other thing is the money. Like for me, the countries I've travelled through have used like the pound, the euro, the Swiss franc. Hungarian money is very different. It's very inflated. So they don't have like a decimal system anymore. They got rid of it a few years ago. So now I think they have the forint, and I think like £1 is worth something like 350 forint. And you end up with like 10,000 forints is about 30 quid. So it can be it takes a bit of time to get used to, and I'm not the best at maths, so just like working out the real price of things and stuff can be a bit tough. But like I say, it's something you should get used to. But yeah, that's like my opinion on Blue Trail really. I think like more people should know about it. Even if you don't through hike it, I think that sections of it are really nice, and you could easily, like, if you have to say a 2-week holiday, spend like a few days in like Budapest and then get the train out and walk like some sections of it, get the train up trail and walk more sections of it. So I think if hiking, and and the other good thing about it is it passes through lots of towns and villages, and I'm kind of on a long walk now, so I didn't really have the time or the money to stay in these villages and stuff, but some of them just look really nice. They have like nice castles. I would have loved to have like stayed for a couple of days and explored them, but so yeah, if you've got the time to do that, then I think it's well worth it. It's well worth a country that probably isn't on people's radar so much for walking anyway. So yeah, the Blue Trail in Hungary, the Kektura.